They came to me with a briefcase full of money. $1 million. Cash. Crisp bills stacked neat and tight, wrapped in brown paper like they were delivering groceries. They slid it across the table in the back room of a restaurant I owned on 125th Street. Didn't say much at first. Just let the briefcase sit there between us, heavy and quiet, like it was supposed to speak for itself. The man who brought it was Vincent Giganti's cousin. Older guy. Careful. The kind who measures every word before it leaves his mouth. He wore a gray suit that cost more than most Harlem families made in a year, and his hands were steady when he opened that case. "Mr. Johnson," he said. "My associates believe this could solve certain complications." Complications. That's what they called it when a black man controlled territory they wanted. I didn't touch the money. Didn't even look at it long. I kept my eyes on him, watching his breathing, the way his shoulders sat, the small movements in his jaw. You learn more from a man's body than his words. And his body was telling me he didn't believe this would work. He was here because he was told to be here, not because he thought I was stupid enough to take it. "Tell me what this buys," I said. He cleared his throat. "Safe passage out of Harlem. A house in Philadelphia, or maybe Miami. Quiet life. No trouble. No interference. You walk away, and everyone benefits. Everyone benefits." That phrase hung in the air like smoke. Let me tell you something about power that most people don't understand. Money is easy. Money comes and goes. Money gets spent, stolen, lost, given away. But territory? Territory is permanent. Territory is respect. Territory is the difference between being rich and being untouchable. Harlem wasn't just streets and buildings to me. It was an ecosystem I'd spent 20 years building. Every block had a structure. Every corner had a purpose. The numbers runners, the policy banks, the protection arrangements, the political connections, they all moved together like instruments in an orchestra. And I was the conductor. You remove the conductor, the whole thing falls apart. The Italians knew this. That's why they were here. See, by 1960, the Mafia controlled most of the drug trade coming into New York. They had the ports, the trucks, the distribution networks. But Harlem was a problem for them. Not because they couldn't move product, they could. But because they couldn't do it without me. And that ate at them. Lucky Luciano understood how to work with people like me. We had an arrangement. Mutual respect. He knew Harlem ran on different rules, and he was smart enough not to push where he wasn't wanted. But Lucky was gone now. Deported. And the new generation? They thought respect was something you bought or took. They didn't understand that in Harlem, respect was something you earned by being part of the fabric. The $1 million wasn't an offer. It was an insult dressed up as generosity. They were saying, "You're in the way. Here's some money to pretend you matter enough to buy out." What they didn't say, but what hung heavy in that room, was the second half, "And if you don't take it, we'll make you wish you had." I've been threatened by better men than them. The Italian sat there, waiting. His eyes kept flicking to the briefcase like it was supposed to hypnotize me. Like I was supposed to see all that cash and forget everything I'd built. Forget the 15 years I spent in prison. Forget the wars I survived. Forget every scar I carried from keeping Harlem independent. How long did it take to count this? I asked. He blinked. "Excuse me?" "The million. How long did it take someone to count it, stack it, wrap it, put it in this case?" I don't know. "A few hours, maybe." I nodded. "Harlem took me 20 years. You think a few hours of counting matches 20 years of building?" His face didn't change, but I saw his fingers tense. Just slightly. Just enough. "Mr. Johnson," he said, slower now, "my associates are trying to avoid unpleasantness. This is a generous." "It's not generous," I said. "It's desperate." The word landed like a slap. He sat back. The muscle by the door shifted his weight. I didn't look at him. Didn't need to. I knew exactly where he was, what he was carrying, and how long it would take him to reach for it. That's not paranoia. That's practice. You don't send $1 million to someone you can handle easily, I continued. You send it to someone you're afraid to fight. So let's not pretend this is kindness. This is fear. And you're hoping I'm stupid enough not to notice. The silence that followed was thick. The kind of silence that happens when truth enters a room and nobody wants to acknowledge it. Here's what they didn't understand about Harlem. It wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a kingdom inside a kingdom. The white power structure in New York tolerated us because we stayed in our box. The police tolerated us because we paid them to. The politicians tolerated us because we delivered votes. And the mafia tolerated us because, up until then, we had something they needed. Access. Black folks didn't trust white gangsters. Simple as that. You couldn't just roll into Harlem with your Italian crew and expect people to do business. They'd smile, take your money, and never deliver. But if I vouched for you? If I said you were solid? Doors opened, product moved. Money flowed. I was the bridge. And they were tired of paying the toll. But if I left, that bridge collapsed. They'd be starting from zero in a neighborhood that already didn't want them. They'd face resistance, slowdowns, sabotage. Every transaction would be a negotiation. Every corner would be a battle. They'd spend 10 times that million just trying to establish what I already had. That's what they couldn't buy. The relationships. The trust. The infrastructure of loyalty. You can't purchase history. I let the silence stretch out. Let him sit with his own discomfort. Some men rush to fill silence. They get nervous, start talking, reveal more than they intended. But I've learned that silence is a weapon. Used correctly, it makes people think you know something they don't. Tell your associates I appreciate the gesture, I finally said. But I'm not interested. Mr. Johnson. I'm not finished. He closed his mouth. You go back and you tell them this, Harlem is not for sale. Not for $1 million. Not for 10 million. Not for any number they can dream up. This is my home. These are my people. And I don't abandon my home because someone waves money at me. I stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. You also tell them that if they want Harlem, they're welcome to try and take it. But they better come correct. Because this isn't a negotiation anymore. This is a statement. And the statement is, I'm not going anywhere. The man looked at me like he was trying to decide if I was brave or suicidal. Maybe both. He glanced at the briefcase, then back at me. They won't like this answer, he said quietly. I don't need them to like it, I said. I need them to understand it. He stood. Picked up the briefcase. For a moment, I thought he might say something else, some threat, some warning. But he didn't. He just nodded once, turned, and walked out with his muscle following close behind. After they left, one of my men came in from the side room. Young guy. Good instincts. He'd been listening to everything. You think they'll come at us? He asked. I know they will, I said. But not yet. Not directly. First, they'll try pressure. They'll lean on suppliers, mess with distribution, maybe try to turn some of my people. They'll make it uncomfortable. See if I change my mind. And if that doesn't work, then we'll remind them why Harlem is different. See, the mafia operated on a simple principle, fear and money. You scared people into line, or you bought them. And if neither worked, you eliminated them. It was effective in their world, where everyone played by the same rules. But Harlem didn't play by those rules. In Harlem, loyalty wasn't about fear or money. It was about respect and protection. The people who worked with me did so because I kept the neighborhood stable. I made sure the police didn't brutalize folks. I made sure the businesses stayed open. I made sure the drugs stayed controlled, not eliminated, because that was impossible, but managed so it didn't destroy everything. I was infrastructure. You can kill a man. But you can't kill infrastructure without everything collapsing. The weeks after that meeting were tense. Little things started happening. Suppliers got nervous. Shipments got delayed. A few of my spots got raided by cops who suddenly cared about gambling laws they'd ignored for years. The message was clear: make him uncomfortable. But I'd been uncomfortable before. I'd been in Alcatraz. I'd been shot. I'd been broke. Uncomfortable didn't move me. What did move me was seeing my community under pressure because of me. That's the weight that keeps you up at night, knowing your decisions affect people who trust you. But it's also what reminds you why you can't fold. Because the moment you fold, it's not just you who loses. It's everyone counting on you. I started making moves. Quiet ones. I reached out to old connections. Pulled in favors. Reminded certain people in City Hall that their careers depended on Harlem staying calm. Reminded certain police captains that their arrangements with me were more profitable than whatever the Italians were offering. Reminded certain businessmen that stability was good for everyone. I built walls they couldn't see. 3 months after that meeting, I got a message. Not a visit this time. Just a phone call. Different voice. Higher up the chain. Mr. Johnson, we'd like to discuss a new arrangement. Not, we'd like you to leave. Not, we'd like to make another offer. A new arrangement. I smiled when I heard that. Because those 2 words told me everything. They'd tried pressure. It hadn't worked. They'd tried intimidation. It hadn't worked. And now they were coming back to the table because they realized what I'd known all along: fighting me would cost more than working with me. I'm listening, I said. The new arrangement was simple. They'd handle the importation. I'd handle the distribution in Harlem. Fair split. No interference. Mutual respect. Exactly the kind of deal Lucky would have made from the start if his successors had any sense. Some people might think I won because I was tougher or smarter. Maybe. But the real reason I won was simpler than that. I understood value. They thought Harlem was valuable because of the money it generated. And sure, there was money. But Harlem's real value was its people. Its culture. Its resilience. And you can't control that with fear or cash. You can only work with it. The $1 million offer was designed to measure me. To see if I understood what I had. If I'd been the kind of man who took it, I'd have proven I didn't understand power at all. I'd have proven I was just another hustler with a price tag. But I wasn't. I was a man who understood that some things aren't for sale. Not because they're priceless in some romantic sense, but because their value only exists as long as you hold them. The moment you let go, they're worthless. Harlem only mattered because I was in Harlem. Remove me, and it's just another neighborhood someone else would have to figure out. Keep me, and it's a kingdom with rules, structure, and predictability. They needed me more than I needed them. They just didn't know it until I showed them. Years later, one of those Italian bosses, different from the ones who made the offer, came to me at a club. We were older by then. Grayer. Slower. The wars had cooled down. Everyone had found their lane. He bought me a drink and said, "I heard about that briefcase. The $1 million. Is it true you didn't even touch it?" "It's true," I said. He shook his head, smiling. "That took balls." "No," I said. "It took clarity. Balls get you killed. Clarity keeps you alive." He laughed at that. Raised his glass. And we drank. Because by then, we both understood the game. Let me tell you what I learned from that whole situation. What I want you to understand if you take nothing else from this story. Power isn't about how much you have. It's about how much you're willing to walk away from. The moment someone thinks they can buy you, you've already lost. The moment someone thinks they can scare you out of your position, you've shown them weakness. But if you make it clear, not through words, but through action, that you can't be moved, that you won't be bought, that your position is non-negotiable, then you force them to deal with reality. And reality is this. Some men can't be removed without causing more problems than they solve. That briefcase full of money was a test. Not of my greed. Of my understanding. They wanted to see if I knew what I had. If I understood that Harlem wasn't just territory, it was legacy, responsibility, identity. I did understand. And that's why I'm telling you this story from Harlem, not from some quiet house in Philadelphia counting money that would have run out years ago. Money runs out. Power, built correctly, endures. That's the difference between a hustler and a king. A hustler takes the deal because he thinks about tomorrow. A king refuses the deal because he thinks about the next 20 years. I wasn't trying to get rich off that moment. I was trying to stay king. And kings don't abandon their kingdoms because someone offers them a pension. So when they ask you, because one day, someone will ask you, to walk away from what you built, from who you are, from the people who depend on you. And they'll make it sound reasonable, logical, even generous. Remember that briefcase. Remember that the price they're offering is never the real value of what you're giving up. And remember that some things, once you let them go, you can never get back. I kept Harlem. And in keeping Harlem, I kept myself. That's worth more than all the money in all the briefcases in all the world.